everyone, get your web shooters out because it's time for another I Can Do This All Day podcast episode. I'm Dan, the part-time Avenger. That's Mark, the resident Jedi.
Hello there. Today we are here to talk about a new cartoon. I know Dan hates cartoons, but I think he was excited about this one. It really kind of, came from inside of him as he was ready to watch this. And we've only watched one episode. We've only dabbled. You've watched two. I watched one.
You only
'Cause
watched one? Well,
I only watched one, and
fuck
that's what we're
me.
here to talk about, buddy. We are here to talk about. I watched part of the second one. A new cartoon on Disney Plus that is Marvel. That's Danny's wheelhouse, and I'm here to ride along with him, my friendly neighborhood Spider-Man fan.
That's right. The Disney juggernaut is back again with a fresh new take on the Spider-Man mythology. This brings into kind of like some old school, but also kind of 3D-ish animation. So it's kind of a little bit of an older look to it, but you still have some fresh take and some nice clean animation, in my opinion. I'm not a huge cartoon person. Obviously, I was a big fan of X-Men and X-Men '97, but we kind of felt obligated to do the Spider-Man cartoon, and even though we are kind of just eagerly awaiting some live action movies from Marvel, who doesn't love Spider-Man? Mark, what's your origin story with Spider-Man and the cartoons? What was your first one that you watched?
I think that, like many of the millennials out there, grew up with the Fox show. That was awesome. The Spider-Man animated series that aired on Fox came out a few years after X-Men and hit all the classic characters like that. That was a great show. I watched it every Saturday morning, baby, and on reruns. What about you?
I watched that as well. I did see some of the older Spider-Man cartoons. I can't remember how. They were obviously a rerun sometimes because I was born way after Spider-Man and his Amazing Friends. But yeah, I ended up seeing a few episodes with that and with Firestar and Iceman. And it was kind of cool, but at the same time, I'd liked anything superhero at the time, so anything I could get my hands
Mhm.
on, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be interesting." I did watch a little bit of the '90s cartoon, but because I wasn't a huge Spider-Man fan, it didn't grab me as much as the X-Men series as much as the X-Men series did. So it was tough, and I never really watched the series all the way through. I hear it's fantastic. I have some friends that are really big Spider-Man fans, and it's like their go-to. They think it's better even than the movies. But I did watch a little bit of the Spider-Man cartoon where Neil Patrick Harris was Peter Parker. That was an interesting one, a little bit different of a take, and it was nice to hear NPH's voice, and him being Spider-Man was kind of cool. But yeah, that's it. I mean, what do you feel about Spider-Man's history in cartoons? Do you think it's worthy of the character? Do you think there's enough of it? Do you think there's not enough of it?
I think that Spider-Man is continuously brought through the zeitgeist, and I think that it's one of those multi-generational superheroes. I think more so than even your Superman. Batman has had just as many, positive media outputs, but I think that Spider-Man's gotten more views than Superman. I mean, even my son knew who Spider-Man was, and that's why I watched this with. I was excited to actually watch something with my kid. He really enjoys Spidey and his amazing friends, the one that the guy from Fallout Boy does the music for. It's a kids show and 100%
Yeah.
a kids show, but he's got all the Spidey toys. He's really excited about it. So for him, I'm like, dude, you want to watch a Spider-Man cartoon? He sat through some of it, but I think that in general, I think Spider-Man translates, and I think Spider-Man's better animated. Now with CGI, you can do it, right? But when we were growing up, practical effects in Spider-Man were not happening. You weren't getting somebody in the tights to do it. It wasn't happening. I think that the more recent movies have gotten it right, and I think we went through a period, and this might be a little tangential and getting ahead of ourselves, but we went through a period with Spider-Man where it was getting very Batmanish, where we saw the same origin story over and over and over. I don't know how many times Joe Chill can shoot Batman's parents, and I don't know how many times Peter Parker can get bit by a spider at Oscorp. But the cool thing about Spider-Man as a character is the evolution that's happening in the more recent movies and animation specifically, where they're kind of playing with it a little bit. There's still a spider, there's still magic, but they're playing with it a little bit. And I'm a fan of that. This show hit me with the classic animation, right? Like OG looking 1950s Peter Parker with the modern thing. And then just out of nowhere, we're deviating from the plan. That we're branching the timeline here. So, yeah, I was impressed. What about
Okay.
you? How did you feel about the history and as this approached you?
Well, this was interesting because I saw this 2 years ago. My wife had an opportunity to watch like a rough draft, an unfinished product of this show. And it was interesting. It had my attention because it was going for that same animation vibe. There were a few changes overall that was a little bit different, and this kind of spills into the second episode. But Norman Osborn is in this show, and he is African American in this iteration. He was not when I first saw this. So they kind of blended stuff together from the first two episodes. But yeah, it was really interesting. I thought I was like on the cutting edge of like, oh, sweet, I get to see this, you know, 6 months or maybe a year before it gets released. And then 6 months goes by, a year goes by, and then I just kind of forgot that the show was even coming out or if it was even going to be completed. And then finally it came out. I wasn't even aware it came out until you mentioned like, hey, let's do the Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man cartoon for the podcast. I was like, oh, holy shit, it finally came out. This is fantastic. I was very interested to see what changes they were going to implement. Obviously, a lot of it was storyboarding. So the story was there, the voice acting was there, but the actual finished product was very, very sparse in between everything. So yeah, I got a sneak peek at it before everything, before it was really, really ironed out and all the details. And I wish I remembered what my wife and I had actually said as feedback because I wonder if any of that stuff was implemented or, it'd be sweet if my wife typed something up and was like, yeah, and that's what made the change. So I don't know, but it was kind of
I'm
cool.
sure she included my husband is a obviously hugely famous podcaster. His and my feedback is this: make these changes, Kevin. No, I find it really interesting that our approach to this property and this specific thing was so different because you have history with it, and I literally stopped giving a shit that they were making this like a year or so ago when I found out that it wasn't aligning to anything and they were like, it's in, it's out, it's in, it's out. It's now it's just its own thing. And I was like, what the fuck ever? Like, here we go again. She-Hulk, let's go. So I came into this with literally no everything was a surprise. I did no research and zero expectation. I did get some cool vibes from it though, for sure.
I want to say, if I remember correctly, there were some characters that were definitely not in that first iteration that I saw. So that was, like I said, I could be wrong. This is during COVID that I watched this, so it was like it seemed like forever ago. And I think now I'm thinking like maybe it was more than 2 years ago because I feel like yeah, COVID was definitely more than 2 years ago. So I don't know. It's been a work in progress for sure, and that's why I kind of forgot about everything. But overall, did you? I didn't see any trailers. I didn't like I said I had no idea this was coming out.
No,
I
you
knew
saw it beforehand. You didn't need to watch a trailer. You watched the whole fucking episode.
yeah, but I didn't know that, whatever that finished product was going to be, like I didn't realize like if they revamped anything, if it was going to be the same thing. So, yeah, it was kind of interesting. I went in pretty fresh. I didn't try to read up on anything beforehand. I didn't look at who the voice actors were. My expectations were like, well, I know what the twist is going to be. Y'all think it's going to be Iron Man at a certain part, but it's not. It's not going to be him. It's going to be Norman Osborn. And I know I'm kind of spoiling a little bit ahead for you, but this is something where I am down with. I like the different take that this is. And even right off the bat with Doctor Strange in his classic garb, and he realizes, like, oh, I'm not where I'm supposed to be right now. And I thought that was super interesting how that's how Peter got bit by the spider. Doctor
Hmm.
Strange fucks up again and brings a radioactive spider from his world, and there it goes, bites Peter Parker.
Yeah, I think Doctor Strange just hates Spider-Man. And I saw the just so we're aligned. I saw the Norman in it. I
Oh, okay.
love the way they did that. Shot for shotted that scene a little bit, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Got the music, but then I thought it was Sandman. Like, is it
Yeah,
just me, or does it look like Sandman?
it did look like Sandman just because of the hair. So a little bit like the hair where it's like, yeah. When I first saw the preview back in the day, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so fucking cool. Like, how are they going to work this in? And so I'm still curious as to what's going to happen. I did see the cast list for future episodes coming up. So I kind
Mhm.
of, I'm disappointed that I have that as a spoiler, but I don't know how anything else is going to unfold. It'll be interesting. What did you think about like the new characters, like the people that Peter meets at his high school?
I like that they changed it up. Maybe because I have a kid that I don't want to like. He's 3, so I was like, oh man, you can see like Flash bullying this kid and all this, and it was positive, which I liked. Like I enjoy the fact that they can call out the fact that being smart is cool, and it's okay to be engaged there and be nice to everybody. Like I liked that, and they think they still were able to create like they're still villains. There's still things for him to do. I enjoyed that.
Do you know who Lonnie Lincoln is? Like
No.
the Okay, I don't think he was a character, and like I'm trying to take a look at everything, but it looks like he's just a new character for this. And Nico Minoru, I think that's a new character as well. So it's interesting, but that person was in a TV series called The Runaways. It was on Hulu for a while. I don't know if you remember that or watched any of that. It focused on kind of like a newer group of people that you would
Mhm.
expect to see some classic Marvel people in there, but you don't really. But it's interesting to kind of see this take on Spider-Man and with all these new people. Now, some people, especially at the time we're in right now, might be thinking like, "Oh, here's a whole DEI Spider-Man cartoon." But let's give it a shot. Let's give it a shot, wait a few more episodes and see what happens with these characters and who they really mean to this Spider-Man's world. Because just like you alluded to it earlier, we've seen the origin of Spider-Man. We've seen the origin of Batman a few times, and it's like, all right, how many times are you gonna, hear about this? I am curious, and I still think to this day that it would be a very interesting take if Uncle Ben is not dead in this universe because they never specifically say Uncle Ben died. They just say, things are different without Uncle Ben around. So I would like to see that he is still alive and he's just something happened before. And we all know from Spider-Man No Way Home, Aunt May uh, ultimately dies. But it would be kind of cool to see Uncle Ben come back. I know that wouldn't necessarily happen in the MCU Spider-Man world just because how can he come back if he doesn't know who Peter Parker is? Like Peter Parker doesn't exist in that world anymore. It seems like. So Uncle Ben just can't come back and he could take the place of Aunt May. But I don't know. Any thoughts on that? Do you think that Uncle Ben is gone or would you be down for Uncle Ben coming back if
Do you want
Aunt
to do the
May?
Andrew Garfield thing where his parents are actually alive and they show up? Like,
No, not the parents. I don't care about the parents. I just kind of like the spin on Aunt May doing the whole with great responsibility or with great power comes great responsibility. And Uncle Ben is kind of the one who picked Uncle Ben is Michael Keaton, Mr. Mom. Like
yeah.
that would be kind of cool.
I candidly like I normally am not a shift up the origin story kind of person, but this one didn't bother me. And maybe that's because Spider-Verse is like, paved the way for that. And then the Tom Holland Spider-Man arc made changes that landed phenomenally. So, for once, I'm kind of open to it. And again, I had no expectations going into it, so I'm just kind of taking it in, um, and accepting it. Obviously, he's low tech Spider-Man now, and obviously he ups his game at Oscorp somehow because they introduced Norman Osborn as the Tony Stark person to give him a full top to bottom rebuild, per se. But I'm really interested to see kind of how it goes and how they get there. But I don't have an expectation to where I need to see X, Y, and Z in it, especially because it's not tied into anything else. So it gets to be its own thing. And with the way that Disney seems to be doing these shows, I don't know that we'll get another season. So it could just be a 10 episode what if arc.
We're getting at least season 2 and season 3, so
Oh, really?
it has been greenlit already. Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
So
Must
so
be really
yeah,
cheap to animate.
that I mean they've been working on it for like 3 or 4 years, so I guess they probably have a whole bunch of stuff in the backlog ready to go. But yeah, I'm good with this too. I like the shakeup. I'm not opposed to some differences in characters. I know what certain people are probably thinking, like, I just want to see like the familiar characters. Where's Flash Thompson? Where's Mary Jane? Blah blah blah. How many times do we have to see Gwen Stacy die? In different mediums. Like how many times do we have to see Mary Jane say, "Face it, Tiger, you hit the jackpot"? Like, I don't know, man. I like a little bit of a twist, especially because there's a lot of people that don't know the origin to Spider-Man. If you want to get new people to uh, love these properties and grow and be excited about what direction it takes, why not do something like this? At the same time, hypocrisy is strong. If you were to mess with Captain America's origin story, I'd be like, come on, you can't do that. But you could. It's just the fan in me like that. It's because it's so familiar with me. And it's interesting as to what this take is going to be. So you didn't watch the second episode. It ends on I don't know if you, well, I mean, I'm going to have to spoil it for you just
Mhm.
because the way that this episode kind of is playing out. But Norman finds out during his internship at Oscorp that Peter's Spider-Man. So is that a good thing or is it a bad thing? I don't know. We'll see. I kind of have a feeling I know where it's going to go, but who knows? Maybe I'll be surprised as to what happens. But obviously, he needs an upgrade. I think his Spider-Man suit's actually kind of cool. I thought it was pretty clever for
With
him
the
to kind of use the
canisters and
tool.
stuff.
Yeah, I thought that makes sense to me as to why he's smart, but he doesn't have all the assets to really create the badass Spider-Man suit. So I'm down for it. I'm okay because it's more realistic. I'm okay with some of these people being changed, or even just like all new characters altogether, where there's a little bit more, DEI in there. But here's the thing: this is in New York, man. Like this isn't like white suburbia that this is taking place in. So I'm 100% fine that this is the melting pot that it is of a cartoon.
Yeah, and I don't miss like Flash Thompson. I don't think it was ever like a substantial character. And to your point, how many times are we going to she's all that it with MJ and Peter? Is it necessary? He can meet Mary Jane later if they need to put it in there. But I think that giving him a little bit of a different journey. Who voices Peter in this? Um, Hudson Thames or whatever. Couldn't sound more Tom Hollandy if he tried. He's so close.
He was the same voice actor in What Ifs, and he did a great
Yeah,
job there. So I was
yeah.
happy that he was remaining as Spider-Man in this.
It gives us enough of a nostalgia hit of characters that we trust and put on a pedestal that we can get there. And then it also gives us, some curveballs. The whole Doctor Strange and weird symbiote thing was awesome. Like, is he gonna get the Venom suit right away?
That's what I was thinking. Like, man, they really changed this up from the first time I
Yeah,
watched this. This is crazy.
yeah. But I was cool with it. And I wasn't missing the whole professional wrestling thing. After you do it with the Macho Man Randy Savage, you don't need to do it again. You're okay.
Which there is that callback in the series. They do plug in that little wrestling clip in there. So I thought there was a good amount of nods in there. You had some action just from Doctor Strange coming in looking all 70s as fuck. When Nico Minoru, who I don't remember watching that in the initial preview of everything. And then Lonnie, I was just like, okay, so this is like a new group. Um, Honestly, I'm kind of curious as to where Lonnie's going in this show. I think his story is super. It just makes me super curious about stuff. There's so much potential of what Lonnie can do because here he is. He's the star quarterback, right? And there's like a degree of loneliness that is very, very evident as he's
Mhm.
walking away. Like you think that he's going to be the guy that just treats Parker like shit, but he's kind of sad. He was kind of hoping that Peter was going to hang out with him and stuff. So I wonder, is that going to be like the change in dynamic? Maybe he'll want to be friends with him so badly, but he is shunned by Peter Parker because Pete just wants to go off and do Spider-Man stuff, and then all of a sudden there's like maybe a resentful type of feeling there for him. So I don't know. That's my guess. It would be interesting to see that happen, but at the same time, I would love it if Peter actually had like a really cool like Ned is his friend in the movies. It would be cool to see Lonnie be that friend, except he's like a bona fide cool guy, and he just really likes Peter, and he's equal to him. You know, there's that same degree, just on a different side of the tracks of where they all come from and how they're all living.
So you think Lonnie's gonna be the man in the chair, or you think he's gonna be Hobgoblin?
According to the cast list, I mean, Harry's going to show up, but I just don't know. I don't know if Harry's going to be just a friend for now and then fleshed out in season 2 and 3 where he becomes a villain, or I don't know. So many possibilities, and I like this because you think you know the Spider-Man story and you think you know where things are going, but because it's in a different universe and it kind of this Peter Parker just wasn't at Oscorp, Doctor Strange brought the spider in. Like I like the liberties that they're taking with this.
Yeah, no. Again, um, same heart, same feel. Really well done animation. Like I like it. It's clean, to your point, and it's retro-y, but it doesn't feel. It's a surprise every next step, and that we haven't had in a while. It's cool to see for sure.
And obviously you get a few familiar characters like Amadeus Cho, who turns into like the I can't remember the exact title, but he turns into a Hulk. He's one of the like awesomely amazing Hulks or whatever you want to call it. But he's just
The
like a
amazing
super
Hulk.
smart kid. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on Dr. Carla Connors? Are you just thinking like, okay, are we just fucking switching everybody up? Or is this what we're doing right now? Or were you okay with it?
I mean, did they do that in? They did a similar thing in Spider-Verse, making Doc Ock a lady. So I don't care.
Okay. I
Yeah.
wonder if it's just like if it's okay to do it in the cartoons, but if you were to do it in live action, would you hear? I'm assuming just from fandom and trolls, you just hear like a gigantic uproar with stuff. You know, if you really, really went completely opposite. I know that some people were like, wait a second, MJ is supposed to be a redhead and the love of Peter's life, and in the MCU Spider-Man, but
Mhm.
I don't know, is that his MJ? Or is it like later on, does he really meet Mary Jane Watson or something? Like that would be kind of sweet.
I think that the age of trolls, though it is still strong, I think that the younger generation's kind of getting away from it, which I love. I think that there's some acceptance, and they don't have the history with the comics and just one show, and this was the only way we knew something. Different options, different things. Common Core math, like all of these things have created uh, um, a less, a more tepid group of non-linear people. So, maybe that'll be a positive change. Maybe all us old folks will just stop bitching about stuff. And
What about like some of the other characters in your opinion? Are there any ones that you're just like, why is this person even here? Or are there ones that you're just super thrilled about?
Nobody really like stood out. I did enjoy the star quarterback action and the fact that Lonnie was being positive and excited about science, but nothing really like I'd love to say that a specific character blew my skirt up, but I was just enjoying the fact that it was a little different and following the story and just kind of rolling with it. Like nothing really blew me away from a character perspective. And I'm sure that as they can, they had to set the table with the first two episodes. The thing that really got me in this was one, the DVD scene, right? With Norman. The fact that they're just like, this is all different. But we're gonna give you some familiar. We hope you enjoy it. That was the cool part for me. Not necessarily anything specific from a character perspective. I don't know them enough yet to judge them.
Okay. And what about like the pacing of the show? It's obviously, less than half an hour for a cartoon, but are you digging the fact that this is kind of, as a cartoon normally does, kind of goes through a little bit more of a rapid pace to get from point A to point Z throughout an episode?
Yeah, no, I'd rather it be faster paced, and just go. No reason to stretch it out. Though in the first episode, I thought it was ending, but it wasn't ending. It was montaging, and it got a little confusing there for me. And that's when my son lost interest, so I had to pause it and come back to it. So I don't know how I feel about non-traditional or if it's going to continue to be non-traditional, but either way, I'm cool with it.
Are
What about you?
you Well, I mean, I pacing's fine for me. I'm just really curious. I just want to be able to watch all of it right now because I don't like not knowing what's going to happen. I want to be able to see what's Norman up to? How is Spider-Man going to get his suit? What's Lonnie going to be doing? Is he friend or foe? Nico, is he going to be a love interest? Or I'm not he, but she going to be a love interest? And is Peter going to get into his normal shenanigans like you would remember from the old comics? Or is it going to be a little bit more modern to where it's like, okay, it's not going to be Dr. Octopus at first, it's going to be somebody else? Or is there going to be another multiverse aspect to this to where Doctor Strange pops through a freaking portal again and send someone over. I did see that Charlie Cox as Daredevil is in this. I don't know how that's going to play into everything. Kingpin supposedly in this as well. Interesting, very interesting stuff. I just want the pace to get faster and faster and faster, and the episodes to be here, 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 now, now, now.
I can't argue with that. Love that they're bringing in familiar characters and excited to see how they kind of serve them up. Like the non-traditional aspect of it. And I think that's the part that's making it feel fresh. Not doing the things that you expect that it's going to do.
Anything Martha you in this episode, or the two episodes, or one and a half that you watched?
The suit.
Really?
Yeah, the suit kind of the gas canister thing has like a very impractical nature to it of where is he refilling gas canisters. So does the web fluid going in a little vial, right? Like all of it's kind of weird, but that to me and the full on cables going to the hands piece is like, I don't know. That,
I mean,
especially with the volume of web fluid he puts on the perps and things like that. I don't know.
he
That's the
has
only thing. And it's okay. It's an interpretation. I don't hate it. I'm just like, I'm excited for him to get to like the real suit. And he's wearing like a lacrosse jersey with a spider logo on it.
He has
Again,
to start somewhere. I mean, Spider-Man in the MCU had basically like red and blue sweats with like cut out
mhm.
sleeves and shit. So I don't know. I think I like this suit better than the MCU Spider-Man original suit, just because it makes sense that he has that little gas canister to shoot his webs out to me. Because is he smart enough and does he have the tech available to make a web shooter? Not really. Not really. So I'm okay with this young 15-year-old kid getting super creative wherever he's finding the stuff. That's a different story, but apparently he's very resourceful. And it kind of makes sense that he's a garbage picker. So maybe that's just what he does. He goes to like some old gas tanks and just like, okay, I'm gonna lift these, and that's maybe he's doing a little crime of theft, but just a little white lie crime just to help his Spider-Man habit, you know? Who knows?
Hope his Spider-Man have it.
And anything else? Oh, what did you think about the theme song, the modern take of the theme song?
I was in it. That was one of the things that stood out to me the most is the opening sequence and the music was really cool to me. I also like the fact that it's animated, kind of like Johnny Quest. So, love the retro throwback to that. But yeah, the music was good for me. And the
Cool.
animation was nostalgic yet fresh.
I dug the opening
It's your new
music.
ringtone, isn't it?
It's if I had a ringtone, like does anyone have ringtones anymore? I don't. I just have my phone on vibrate because I feel
Mhm.
like an asshole when a phone rings in public. So that's where like I don't know. Do you have a ringtone?
Um, no, not really. I'm the
No, yeah,
same. I get
I
the
don't know
alert on the watch
anyone.
and I'm good. Is it your new wake up alarm?
Maybe,
That's
maybe,
more
but
where I utilize music or alternate sounds. Right.
yeah, I'm just kind of nice to be able to talk about this, and it's short watches and it's content that we're familiar with, but it has a fresh new spin on things. But I'm kind of curious, Mark. I got a question for you. When it comes to the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, can you do this all day?
I don't know yet. I like the animation. I like the music. I like the voices. The episodes are a little slow for me right now, but maybe that was just the situation I was watching it in. So I'll probably continue to give it a watch. Try and get the little man to sit through it. Is it something I'm gonna turn on for me? I don't know. Maybe. And you could talk me into it. And maybe if some listeners are like, we really enjoyed your take on the first like episode and a half, why don't you guys do a review of it when it ends? Um, then I would. But right now, undecided, but with leaning towards good shit.
Mm. Okay, I got you. That's fair enough.
What
And
about you?
we're
Are you in this already? Have you bought in? Like, or have you ordered the new Peter Parker sublimated dyed T-shirt to replace that one?
I'm never gonna replace this one. This'll be mine until it just fucking falls apart from my deodorant and sweat and blood and tears from just wearing it on this podcast. But yeah, I think that it's an interesting take so far. I'm curious as fuck as to what's going to happen in future episodes. I'm trying not to read anything else about this because I'm that invested of like, ooh, where's the journey going? Like what's the next two episodes gonna be like? Or even like just the hint of like how is Daredevil fitting into this? And like when is Norman Osborn gonna turn into a major prick and just declare war on Spider-Man? Or maybe that's not gonna happen. Who knows? I don't know. It's such a strange time with the Marvel properties now, especially for the animated series, for What If and X-Men 97 and all that. I don't know where any of it's going. I'm super curious. I'm hoping it's going to be a better direction than What If went, but I'm down for it. I'm a Spider-Man fan now. I enjoy Spider-Man. I have a few Spider-Man suits up in my closet right now. I probably should have worn one for this episode, but maybe I'll save that for if we decide to do the whole series review, or maybe the next Spider-Man movie that comes out, because that's being worked on right now. So we'll see. We'll see. But TBD, TBD. This is the first in the I Can Do This All Day podcast that I'm not going to say yes, just because we've only seen a little bit of it. And yeah, too early to tell. But I also have an optimistic outlook on this. So that's my opinion. I'm sticking to it.
Look at us, we agree.
Yeah, I know.
We
Well, yeah.
agree. It's
Who would have
crazy.
thought?
Who would have
It's like,
thunk it?
yeah.
The hypocrisy is non-existent on this episode. Mark it down.
But until next time, this is Dan the Part Time Avenger. That's Mark the Resident Jedi.
Don't forget to hit us up at I Can Do This All Day podcast on all of the socials. Let us know if we should do a at the end of this series episode. Let us know what y'all thought. Let us know if you hate the fact that we're undecided. Either way, hit us up. Let us know what you think. We're excited for your comments to swing in to our zeitgeist.
We'll see you next time, everyone.